you can have the person that you really want, regardless of your age, size, or skin color. And a lot of women, especially in the African American culture, are concerned about their hair being too curly. They're concerned about their skin being too dark. They're concerned about being too fat. And I'm like, all of those are what a lot of guys from other cultures really, really like.
Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. I'm your host, May Bugenhagen. Today, I have a guest. Her name is April. She is a certified love coach and certified matchmaker, author, as well as the president and CEO at AuthentiQ LOVE, where interracial relationships are the #1 priority. Upon deciding she wanted to remarry after enjoying the single life for over 30 years, April remembered that dating a Caucasian guy in her 20s was the best relationship she had. She declared interracial relationships were to be her niche and birthed AuthentiQ LOVE. It is always a pleasure talking to somebody about interracial relationships because I too am in a interracial relationship. And did I ever think I was going to marry a white guy? Probably not, actually. I did not think that at all. I dated Asian guys. I dated all ethnicities, actually. Indian guy, all this stuff. So I love to talk to guests who have a different point of view than my other guests. So welcome to the show, April. How are you?
I'm doing great. And thank you so much for asking me to come and join you here. I love talking to other people about interracial dating and relationships as well. Because like you said, sometimes it's kind of what they say, far in between for you to be able to meet somebody who actually wants to have that type of discussion.
Yeah, so tell us how you got started in this field. How did you, I know obviously you were telling us in your bio that the best relationship you had was with a Caucasian man. Now, when you were dating in your 20s and 30s and 40s, were you just dating Black men and then you went back to dating a Caucasian guy? Like what happened?
I had only dated African American men all my dating life. And this was my first experience in dating someone outside of our culture. And it was so different and it was so positive that it really just held my attention, obviously. Now, I was single for over 30 years. And so when I really decided I wanted to get back into dating, I actually remembered that. And what the other thing that caught my attention was I hadn't been dating so long. So it was like, I think you need to go learn about dating in this century. So I set out to learn about dating. And as I began to learn about dating, I realized I had learned some things that if other women, especially in my age group, knew some things that I had learned, and they really wanted to have a good, healthy relationship, they would take the knowledge that I had to share and go back and get the man of their dreams. And so that's what got me into the dating industry, shall I say.
So what does the loveologist mean? How did you come up with that name and title?
What my mentor suggested that word to me, and I was like, that sounds good. And after we got off the phone, of course, I went and researched it. But a loveologist is a person who actually studies love and shares it and teaches it. And you'll find a lot of this, yes, in the public sector, but you will find it kind of heavy in the religious sector that they do this and they have classes in their churches and things like that. Not what normally would be in a church, I guess you would say, is a singles ministry. But no, they have people who are really, really teaching about how to have a good, healthy relationship. And so that's how we came up with that.
So what is the biggest difference when you look at your own dating experience when you're dating an African American guy versus a Caucasian man? Like, what are some of the differences that you've noticed?
Well, first of all, the approach is very different. Some you would say that African American men may be a little more upfront, or you may even consider it possibly a slight aggressive. It's not that they're being rude or pushy or whatever, but they come off, a bit more solid, shall I say. But when it's guys from other cultures, they are actually a lot of times you will be hanging around somebody for a long time. When I say a long time, it could be years before the guy actually makes an approach. And the thing is, they're so cool at what they do that you don't even know they're interested. But the guy has been checking you out for quite a while. I know a couple, they were both grown. They were both like over 40. So they were back in college, and they were in some organizations together, but they were leaders in some organizations together. And then they had other organizations that they were in on campus too. And they would go to lunch every time they were on campus, or they would go to dinner. And so they were just friends, of course, is what she thought. And then, and also at that time, he was married. So, she's just thinking they were just friends, just hanging out. But as time went on, one night they went to dinner and he made his approach, and she just like froze, because she didn't know, first of all, that he had gotten divorced. And she didn't know that he was interested in her. And so they got married. They had twins. But that's one of the bigger differences. Now, the African American men, they're gonna see what they like, come up to you, ask you for your digits, and give you a call and ask you out. Just that way.
So, as a single woman, wouldn't you rather have a man make his intentions known and don't leave anything up in the air? Like, for example, in those scenarios that you were just talking about, the man and the woman, and how she had no idea that he was interested in her, and that he already got a divorce, and that he wanted to get to know her romantically. Wouldn't you rather know that this guy approaches you and make his intentions known, that he's romantically interested in you?
I think it can go either way. What I've done is I just pay attention and go with the flow, whichever way it is. Sometimes when a person comes up to you and they're ready to rock and roll right then, they really have not checked you out. They haven't checked your personality. They may just be going on looks. But the other person has actually checked you out. They know your personality. You may be friends. And that right there is the recipe to have a very good marriage too, is when you're friends first. And you know that they really have genuine interest in you. And also, when it comes to interracial relationships, when someone from a different culture approach you to let you know that they're interested in you, they have also counted up the cost. They were ready to cross the line. They know what it's going to cost them or not cost them. And we're not talking about money when they cross that line. So I believe it can go either way, and you just have to kind of feel it out.
So, what if there's a listener out there and she's always dated within her culture, never veered from it? She just always was told to pair up with a guy that is very similar to her in her culture, her beliefs, her lifestyle. How would you suggest that she goes outside her culture and date other people? Like, when should you go outside and date other people?
One of the things that is a good sign that you should go outside your culture is if you're not having good success within your culture. That was my story. I wasn't not having good success. I was having a challenge finding gentlemen who like to do the things that I like to do. Another time when you go outside your culture depends on your location, who's around you, because you may have to work like in the military, or you may be an expat and there's nobody around you but people from a different culture. But the thing is, you really don't have to have a reason. If you have a person that you're interested in them and they're interested in you, then go ahead. There's really nothing wrong with it. The thing is, you want to make sure that you are compatible in lifestyle and goals and things you want to do. And the biggest thing that you have to make sure you're compatible in is your religious beliefs. But mind you, I didn't say you had to be in the same religion.
Explain.
I know a couple that have two different religions, but they did not let that stop them. They each still maintain their one that they were brought up with, the one that they want to stick with. They're married now, they have children, and what they've done is they have introduced the children to both of them, and they are allowing the children to choose the religious beliefs that they want to work with. And that's how they do it.
That is awesome. I never even thought about that, to make it, okay, you're religious in your own religion and someone else is religious in their own religion, but yet let's just respect each other's religion, and you love each other and you raise kids and you let the kids decide. Like, that is actually very, very interesting. I mean, I grew up Buddhist and I'm not religious. My husband grew up Christian. His family is very religious, but yet he's not. And it doesn't really bother me that he has Christian values and I have Buddhist values. And it just kind of works, I guess, if you just respect each other's cultures. For example, I eat a lot of weird and different kind of foods and the way that's prepared and things like that. And I mean, I never even went to Papa John's and ordered pizza, and I lived walking distance to a pizza place. Like, I never ate pizza growing up, so I never, went and bought pizza. But then once he moved in, we went and ate a lot of pizza. And for example, all he's known was top ramen that comes in those, 25-cent containers. He didn't even know you could go to a restaurant to get ramen noodles. Like, so we had to teach each other our cultures, I guess, and what we differed growing up. But yeah, you just don't think about those things until you encounter it, right? So,
but think about this too. Think about your own relationship and what I'm fixing to say. You decided that you loved each other and you decided you were going to make this work. But what you also decided, whether you did verbally or not, was you also decided that you were not going to allow your differences to explode your relationship. So, that give and take. Another thing about the couple that I was talking about is they even support each other. They will go to each other's church or religious events as well.
Yeah.
But you decided that you were not going to let that be something that would tear your relationship up, and you figured it out.
But so many people come to me and, they might be Christian and they only want to date a Christian woman. So is it because they just realize, you know what, I don't want to deal with the differences. I don't want to learn about another religion. I just want our household to be Christian. I just want to have one religion in our household. Like, how do you explain to somebody who feels that way? Like, they probably won't be open-minded to date somebody who's in another religion, right?
You're very, very right. And I agree with that. When people come to me and that's what they want to do, they want to stay within their own comfort zone, I leave them in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of times you might have to just let them possibly even experience something outside of their culture. Like I said, for me, it was my first experience. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Okay. Just met this guy. And there are those people. I have talked to several young ladies. I remember this apartment complex I used to live in, there was this beautiful chocolate, perfect skin, very intelligent young woman that used to come and hang out with me in the parking lot. We bumping each other, just chat. And I was like, "You dating anybody?" "No." "How long has it been?" She told me. I was like, "Lord." And I asked her, I said, "So have you thought about dating outside your culture?" And she comes up with this list of excuses. I said, a lot of times the things that we are concerned about, that we want to hide, are the things that people from other cultures really desire, respect, and like in us. And she just stood there and looked at me.
Yeah.
But that is what I have found. Because when I first started, I still do have this slogan, but when I first started, I was really putting it out there a lot. And it is, you can have the person that you really want, regardless of your age, size, or skin color. And a lot of women, especially in the African American culture, are concerned about their hair being too curly. They're concerned about their skin being too dark. They're concerned about being too fat. And I'm like, all of those are what a lot of guys from other cultures really, really like.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. If you're not having success trying to find somebody that you've thought about who you think is your ideal guy or girl, you should look outside your cultural lines and try to meet other people. I think the only time people are open to meeting somebody outside their culture is if they work together and then they've been exposed to that person. They wouldn't go seek them, but because they work so close together, they get to know them, then they're more open-minded. And then maybe they go on a dating app and they're like, oh, maybe I would date person from, Mexico, or I would date someone from China. Like they need some kind of connection or experience with that type of people before they go and look for them. So I guess the whole point is you should just be exposed to as many people as you can so you can learn and be more open-minded, and hopefully that trickles down to your dating life. Cause yeah, I mean, I guess you date who you're around, right? Like I grew up in Needles, California, and there were a lot of Native American Indians, like that group of people there. I never would have thought I would even seek them out, but because that's who was around me, that's who I got to know, that's who I would have a crush on, or that, like you just get comfortable once you get to know people. And I guess that's the whole point, is to get out of your comfort zone so you could be more comfortable meeting different types of people. So,
but another thing too about people not coming out of their comfort zone, is a lot of the upbringing, a
mhm,
lot of things that have been said to you as a young person. Because there are some cultures who actually, they yeah, some cultures actually tell their children as they're growing up not to date African Americans.
mhm, yeah,
And then there's cultures that tell you when you're growing up, if you're African American, not to bring other cultures home.
mhm,
And if people have grown up with those type of stereotypes in their head, or thoughts in their head, or they're worried about what family's going to say or not say, they won't want to step out of their culture. I've had
yeah.
to do a whole lot of educating since I've been doing this. It's been interesting.
Yeah. No, it's totally what you said, April. Like I remember my parents, they're like, we don't want you to bring a black guy home. Like we just
Hmm.
don't think that you should marry a black guy. And even when I dated an Indian guy who had really dark skin, they did not like that, even though they never told me. But once we broke up, they're like, oh, we're so glad you didn't marry him because he had, too dark of skin. So yeah, I totally agree what you say. Like, yeah, my parents were totally racist, and that's how they grew up, and that's how they, kind of made us think about what they said, and we absorb it. And then when we get older, then we make our own decisions, right? Then we
Yes.
have other, I have African American friends and things like that. And yes, some of them are attractive. But yeah, it's really how you grow up and what your parents tell you. Like that's such a strong belief system you have when they do that. So,
Mhm. And you need that exposure, like you were talking about. You need that
mhm.
exposure so that you can break away.
Yeah.
And I know some people even just want to. They're dying to grow up. That was not good said good. Some people are just revved up to grow up and experience outside their culture. And yet you find a lot of clubs or small organizations of men and of women that actually travel outside the country, and they date outside the country while they're outside the country because they want to be exposed to and connect with other people.
Yeah, I find it so surprising when some people are like, "Oh yeah, I've never been out of the country," or "I don't have a passport." It's like, "What? How can you not want to go experience outside the US?" Yes, US is great, but man, there's a whole world out there that is so different that actually might can make you appreciate the US more once you go to some third world countries and things like that. But yeah, it's if someone has traveled outside the US before, they
Mhm.
probably are more open to dating other cultures. Otherwise, you're just kind of like in this little bubble. And especially if you grow up in a small town, you don't ever leave the small town. You just don't know what you're missing, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
so your clients are people who come to you and they do want to date outside their race. What are some of the benefits of interracial dating?
Well, like you were saying, you learn things that are outside your bubble, because people who are in interracial relationships have also come to the conclusion that they are wanting to share their culture, and that is adding more knowledge to you. What I have found in my experience is um, the way you're treated can be different, and it can be very, very positive. Of course, there's the different food, and that can be awesome.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been out the country, it can possibly be an um, option for you to go out of the country. But I personally like learning. I like learning. So, when we used to go, my daughter and I used to go to Hispanic churches when we lived in Oklahoma. I just love learning the music, listening to the music. And then I'd go find it on a CD back in CD days. Go find one, and we'd both be singing it. But she actually learned Spanish while we were there in Oklahoma. So I just like learning. And so meeting people from other cultures, whether it's somebody to date or not, it's just, to me, it's a definite benefit. It's an increase in your knowledge of whatever it is. Um, it's also an opportunity for you to even learn another language, and that can be beneficial for you for your mental health right there. But there's just so many different benefits, and when you love the person, you share freely. And you spoke earlier about some people just feel like they just don't want to explain stuff or whatever. You know, when it really boils down to it, it doesn't matter whether you're in an interracial relationship or what I call a traditional relationship. There's explaining that has to be done,
Yeah.
because from one person's house to another person's house, things have been handled differently. And I don't care if you are in the same culture. It's, but you know what? That is an excuse that I have heard a lot. I just don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, but you're standing here explaining your little circle to me. Okay.
True, true. I just think like for introverts out there, or maybe if someone thinks they're boring or they don't bring a whole lot to the table, they should actually date interracially so they could be more interesting to somebody, right? And plus, like you said, learning a new language, you are more interesting the more things that you see and do, and can see and can do. And just by going out of the country, you just learn so much new stuff that you can then come back and talk to somebody about it on a date. Because
Yes.
if you're not interesting and don't have a lot of interest, you're just not a good dater then, right? Like you just need to like add more stuff to your dating toolbox so you're more interesting. And yeah, I think that's a good way. Like you're forced to share and talk if you're dating somebody that you just want to learn from. So it's not a disadvantage, it's actually an advantage for you to be able to share all the fun foods, all the different quirks and stereotypes and languages and customs, like the way someone dresses in a culture, the way they, have habits or traditional stuff, like so much to learn. Yeah, I would totally absorb all that.
Another real serious benefit to dating outside your culture, or at least you get this benefit if I had been sharing with you. And that is when you're in an interracial relationship and you've come to the point to where you both are like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. You build a very, very strong bond.
Mhm.
People in interracial relationships bond together, and wisdom says, let's bond and make our relationship strong before we start bringing other people or allowing other people into our circle. And when you have that strong bond as the foundation and the beginning of your relationship can go further. And to me, that would decrease the possibility of divorce because you're building that bond because you've got, already in advance of some of the, let me be nice, drama that may come at you from outside the relationship. So you build that strong bond, and that strong bond has kept a lot of interracial relationships together because they have each other's back and they're not going to let other people break their bond.
Yeah.
But I think that right there is like number one or number two when it comes to interracial relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens if a couple gets together in an interracial relationship, but their parents don't like them being in an interracial relationship? How do they navigate past that and have their parents be okay with it?
First off, they have to navigate between the two of them, like I was just saying, in their bond. They've got to know that they want this relationship to go the distance. Now, if you just started out and you start letting other people in, when I say letting other people in, I'm even talking about introducing your person to your family. You want to make sure that you're strong first before you do that. And if you are not solid and you start introducing other people in and letting their opinions and attitudes and et cetera in, you're going to let that break you up.
That's a good point.
But for the people who really want to go the distance, they're going to decide this is what they want to do. They will communicate how they're going to handle things. Not only are they going to communicate that, but they will also tell each other, well, what they know might possibly happen or who they know might have objections and explain why they may have objections. One of the things I've learned too is that because certain cultures have not experienced, like you said before, other cultures, the parents and grandparents may have their own particular reasons. I actually did a live about this, and I talked about why parents and grandparents are against these things. And a lot of times it's because of things that they know from past history of the culture. But if you really want to have your relationship and maintain it, you need to communicate. You need to let each other know who in the family may have whatever objection and come up with a way of how you're going to deal with it or how you're not going to deal with it. Another thing too is if it's his parents that have the problem, let him deal with them. If it's her parents, let her deal with them and let them know that you have their back. And some people will just go ahead, not that they're being rebellious, but because they know that they're in love and their love is strong and gonna last, they go ahead and move on with the relationship. But they don't try to change or make other people be okay with their relationship. And they'll go on to get married. And then you have grandbabies. And a lot of people, when the grandbabies come along, everybody shifts. Nobody's upset with you anymore. But the thing is, if this is what you want to do, the very first thing is you both have to be solid in knowing that this is your person. Because there things will come up. They'll pop off there. And they may happen in the most oddest location with the oddest person. Could be the person that you knew had your back in your family or your friend group, and they would be the one to bring up the objection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is not something for, as they say, the faint of heart, and it's not something you can wear on your sleeve for somebody to knock off. You yourself, even before you become a couple, you have to be solid in yourself that this is what you want, and you're going to, you know that there may be issues, but you are going to stay there and you're going to deal with them because you want what you want.
So in your company, when clients come to you and they want to date someone outside of their race and you find them partners that way, like what is your specialty? Like what do you focus on? Specific gender, age range, geographically located, where, like what's your specialty, your niche?
I prefer to work with people that are in the US. And as far as helping them to come up with someone, I work with them and I see what it is that they want and what I see that they may need. It is possible that they may just need my coaching because I have the certification in coaching. So they may be the type of person that you can just share information with. They will follow the steps, they'll make the adjustments, and they can get there. And then there's other people who may be just too busy or they don't want to. And for them, I will search out some people for them, introduce them to them, do the vetting for them. Now, when it comes to that vetting piece, I know a lot of people will say, my picker is off. That's how they say it. It cracks me up. They say, my picker is off. I just can't seem to choose the right type of person. I end up with the same old type of person that I just don't want. And what I reassure them is this: I'm going to be doing your vetting for you if you're doing the matchmaking part with me, okay? So let me assure you, I will not be letting my guard down, which might be what you were doing. I will not be letting my guard down. I know what you're looking for. And the ones that don't seem to meet that criteria will be X'd off the list. And we will be presenting you with qualified people who are the type of standards, who like the type of activities you like. I'm not, no. And then also this year in 2024, we'll be doing a lot more mixers. So that's going to be available for people as well. But when I'm hosting a mixer, I'm not just throwing a bunch of people in a room. When we put you in your breakout groups, we are trying to even match you then with people who have similar things that you like to do, activities and goals and things like that.
So what percentage in your experience or your guesstimate would you say that African American women want to date African American men and vice versa?
I'm going to say most of our culture likes to stick within our culture because they think about slavery, they think about back in the 60s, and that's where their head is. They really want to stay. And then you have the adventurous people who actually want to go out. Or you have people who were brought up to look at people as people. and not be concerned about all of that stuff. So most of them, yeah, they want to stay within their culture.
Yeah. You think the men too, the African
Yeah,
American men want to stick with the African American women?
they do.
Yeah.
I know that we have seen, especially in commercials and social media, et cetera, we've seen a lot of Black men with white women or women from other cultures.
Mhm.
But the majority of our culture likes to stay within its own culture.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But like I said, you do have people. So I'm gonna say it would be 80-20, because it's really a small number of people who want to date outside their culture. But one thing for sure, regardless to what the numbers look like now, interracial, intercultural relationships are very fastly becoming the norm. So we have to wake up as a culture, as a country. We say that we're the melting pot. So we've got to really wake up to the fact that this is changing and this baby is rolling in fast.
What's your background, April?
I am African American, and I've learned to say I'm not from Africa. My family's not from I have dated Caucasian, Hispanic, Norwegian. I forgot where this one guy was from, but I've dated guys from a variety of cultures as well, and it's been interesting. And in the process, not only have I learned about other cultures, but I've learned about relationships. You know, we say that people from other countries typically have stronger family relationships and bonds. And that is something that I've learned about how close people are with their families, and how relationships should be, and how people should treat each other, and how they should communicate. So it's been an interesting ride.
What is one dating advice or tip that you can give the men and women out there? It doesn't have to be interracial tip or anything like that, but just a dating tip in general that you normally don't hear a lot, but that you know has worked for you or your clients, and just something that is unique that maybe you could share with the audience?
Go for what you want and know what you want. This is the one time that you want to make sure that you make you happy. So don't just settle because of what somebody else said, did, or whatever. Know for yourself that this person has the qualities that you want, and that's what you should go for.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, April, the loveologist, thank you so much for joining me today. I will put all of your contact information in the show notes. And I'm your host, May Bugenhagen. I am the owner and founder of Two Asian Matchmakers, which is a boutique matchmaking company that started in Los Angeles. And today I help men all across the US find an Asian partner who they want to be with. Women out there, if you're single, I would love for you to be part of my Rolodex. So please go to twoasianmatchmakers.com, fill out a profile with me so I can find you, because I can't match you if I don't know where you are and don't have your information. So, and for you guys out there who want to get in touch with April, I will have all of her information in the show notes. Thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, April, for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for allowing me to hang out with you. Bye-bye.
It was fun. It was fun. Thank you. Bye.